Hey, what's up, my muchachos? Today we're going to be talking about solving quadratic equations by using completing the square. Now, completing the square is going to allow us to solve a quadratic equation without having to go through all the rigmarole of things like the quadratic formula or the guessing games that are usually associated with things like factoring. This is accomplished by taking any quadratic equation and producing something that we call a perfect square trinomial. Now, if you're wondering what that thing is, well, I'm happy to oblige you. You see, a perfect square trinomial is any trinomial like this one here, a squared x squared plus 2abx plus b squared. It factors down into the very nice square of the binomial ax plus b, or as we see it written here, ax plus b, quantity squared. So you might be wondering, what exactly does completing the square have to do with this perfect square trinomial, and more importantly, why should we care? Well, the thing is, you don't actually have to have a perfect square trinomial in order to be able to use completing the square. In fact, that's kind of the whole point of the thing. Now, the basic gist here is that we pretend that the first two terms are the first two terms in a perfect square trinomial. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out the number that we have to add to the end in order to make it factorable into ax plus b quantity squared. I would be remiss if I didn't go over something before we review the steps that are shown here, but everything that we do today is going to assume that a is equal to 1, okay? So the steps that we use here are specifically with respect to those problems where the coefficient to x squared is equal to 1. Keep that in mind, and everything else is going to be hunky-dory. The question is then, how are we supposed to do this thing? And it's pretty simple. First, we divide the linear coefficient by 2, and then we square it. That would be the number in front of x. Once we do that, then we're going to add and subtract this value after the x term. This is important. It has to be add and then subtract, and it has to be right after our x term. Once we have that, we'll group and factor the perfect square trinomial. Then we'll isolate the squared binomial by adding or subtracting whatever constant is not in the parentheses. And then we will take the square root of both sides. Okay? You have to remember that you have to do both the positive and the negative square root. If you forget this, you're only going to get half the answers. Okay? Then the last step is to finally isolate the variable. You have to do these last two steps in this order. Don't try to add or subtract the number with x inside the parentheses before you take the square root. It's not the right thing to do. Now, I recognize and fully appreciate the fact that I said have to over and over again while I was explaining those steps. But it's important for us because if we don't follow these steps pretty much exactly, we'll be breaking the laws of algebra, and that's kind of a no-no, especially if we're trying to get the right answers. So, without further ado, let's take a look at how this plays out with some examples. Because I know it seems like there's a lot here, but in practice it kind of becomes routine. Alright, so first example has x squared plus 10x minus 13 equals 11, and we want to solve for x. We take a look at our linear coefficient here, 10, and we're going to start by dividing that by 2 and then squaring that number. 10 divided by 2, of course, is equal to 5, and then 5 squared is equal to 25. I don't think we're breaking any brains so far. Now we have to take that 25 and we have to add and subtract it immediately after the 10x. It has to be add and then subtract and right after the 10x. This gives us x squared plus 10x plus 25 minus 25 minus 13 equals 11. We're going to group now because that's going to allow us to see our perfect square trinomial a little bit more easily. That perfect square trinomial here is x squared plus 10x plus 25, which we're going to be able to factor in just a second here. So we do that. X squared plus 10x plus 25 factors down into x plus 5 quantity squared. We'll do our subtraction here with the 25 and 13 to get negative 38, and the whole thing still equals 11. We add 38 to both sides to isolate our binomial, and this is going to give us x plus 5 squared equals 38 and 11 is 49. We will take the square root of both sides now. That's going to get rid of the squared outside of the parentheses. This gives us x plus 5 equals, and then there are two square roots to 49. There's a positive 7 and a negative 7. Now, to honor the plus or minus, we'll just set up two equations. one with the x plus 5 equal to 7 and the other equal to negative 7. We'll subtract 5 from both sides in both of our equations, and that's going to give us our two final answers here. We are going to get x is equal to 7 minus 5 is 2, and negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12. Wow, okay, so it seems like a lot of work, and yes, I will admit, certainly it is, but like I said before, it's something that you're gonna get used to the more that you do it. Whether that's a good thing or not is, kind of up to your own interpretation here. I also want to take a second to remind us here that we took the square root before we subtracted 5 from both sides. You absolutely have to do that in this order because if you were to square x plus 5, remember, it's x plus 5 times x plus 5. Without getting into too much detail here, remember that if we were to FOIL that out, we would get what we started with at the top there, the x squared plus 10x plus 25, and subtracting 5 from both sides isn't really going to do anything in isolating our x variable in that case. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's move on here. Our next example asks us to solve for x when x squared minus 18x plus 79 equals 25. Our linear coefficient here is negative 18, so we'll divide that by 2 and square it. Negative 18 divided by 2 is equal to negative 9. And then when we square negative 9, that's going to give us 81. Now we have to add and subtract that immediately after the negative 18x. This is going to give us x squared minus 18x plus 81 minus 81 plus 79 all equals 25. We'll group again to showcase our perfect square trinomial. This is x squared minus 18x plus 81, there it is, minus the 81 plus the 79 and all the rest of the equation here. Now we're going to factor that perfect square trinomial. This becomes x minus 9 squared. We'll do our subtraction here. Negative 81 and 79 is negative 2. And now we're going to add the 2 to both sides because we want to get the x minus 9 squared all by itself. This gives us x minus 9 squared equals 27. And then we have to take the square root next. This is going to give us x minus 9 equals plus or minus the square root of 27, or if you need to simplify your radical, that's going to be plus or minus 3 times the square root of 3. If you need more help on that, check out the Auducation video on simplifying radicals. We set up our two equations now, one for the positive 3 radical 3, and the other one for the negative 3 radical 3. There it is. And then we would add 9 presumably to both sides, but since I'm running out of room, I'm just going to write it here. We'll have 9 plus 3 radical 3, and then our other answer will be 9 minus 3 radical 3. And there we go. So, fun fact here, we can get radicals for answers, and that's perfectly okay and in fact even normal. If you wanted a decimal approximation, just type it into your calculator and take a look. Now let's look at a problem that has, well, a different kind of wrinkle. Here we're asked to solve for x when x squared plus 7x minus 3 equals 1. Our linear coefficient is 7. That's an odd number. What we're going to find is that when we divide by 2, we're not going to get a whole number answer. For now, we're just going to leave it as the fraction 7 over 2. We still have to square it, though. And when you square a fraction, remember, it's top squared over bottom squared. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. And the steps proceed as they did before. We take that number, and we have to add and subtract it after the linear variable. That means we have x squared plus 7x plus 49 over 4 minus 49 over 4, and then again the rest of our equation. We'll separate our perfect square trinomial in parentheses like we normally do, so that's x squared plus 7x plus 49 over 4, and then keep the rest outside of the parentheses because right now we don't quite care about them just yet. And then, of course, we will factor, combine our like terms, and then continue solving. That perfect square trinomial is going to factor down into x plus 7 over 2 squared. Now watch this one. 3 times 4 is 12. Negative 49 minus 12, that's negative 61. All over 4 is equal to 1. Now we have to add our fraction here to both sides, plus 61 over 4, plus 61 over 4. And again, we're going to have to do some quick fraction arithmetic here, but watch how good I am at this. Of course, we have x plus 7 over 2 squared. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 61 is 65 all over 4. Bingo. We'll take the square root, and taking the square root of a fraction is very similar to squaring the fraction. It's the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. We get x plus 7 over 2 equals the square root of 65 over the square root of 4 is 2. And of course, we cannot forget at all our plus or minus. We set up our two equations here, one for the positive square root of 65, there's our radical, over 2, and one for the negative. We get x plus 7 over 2 equals the negative square root of 65 over 2, and then we minus our 7 over 2 from both sides. Again, running out of room here, so I'm just going to write the answer here. Negative 7 halves plus the square root of 65 over 2. And then we get negative 7 halves minus the square root of 65 over 2. And those are our answers. Now you can write these answers about 100 different ways here. You could turn them into a single fraction because they have a common denominator, but even if they didn't, you could still do it by producing a common denominator. Of course, for now, what does it matter? We got ourselves some answers. And of course, if you were looking for decimals, just type these into your calculators very carefully, and I promise you, you will get the same answers. Once again, I'm not going to argue with the fact that this is a lot of work, but trust me, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at the steps. It's all very natural. It flows logically very nicely. In fact, I would even argue for the fact that having steps for this type of problem is a little bit detrimental because you're going to get hung up on all the minor details when really just follow your heart. But that's more than enough of that for today. If you need to review this video, then by all means watch whatever parts you need to watch as many times as you need to watch it. And more importantly, make sure that you're getting the practice done because watching it is not nearly as helpful as actually doing some problems. And with that, I'm out. Later, muchachos!